Welcome to my 2019 pedalboard tutorial that I want to share with you guys, because it's sort of gradually built up over the years and I've got to a point now where I'm pretty happy with it and that I've got everything set at exactly what I want. So with this pedalboard we sort of have three lines, so I'll just quickly go through what that is. So the line selector, which is this over here, has three sort of different lines. So one is a bass line, like a lower end default sort of line that I have, that no matter what line, if I select a different line, they're always going to be in the chain. So I have the default line is the wireless system, so that's the G30 wireless system by line 6. The MXR Bass Compressor, which the compressor is set to what's best for my bass, that I'm happy with, I like the sound of. And then the vintage Microtubes by Darkglass as well, which is just add a bit of grit in songs. Then we have different lines. So if I go click it on line A, we have the Strymon Timeline and the Strymon Big Sky as well. That's just there to add a shimmer effect, just in case I feel an empty space in the background if it's required. Just more of an ambient sort of shimmer sound. So then we have line B, which for worship I never really use, but it's more of a fun thing to have there, maybe for a youth group to sort of have a bit of fun with a synth bass sort of sound. So that's a Octabass and a distortion pedal. So I'll go on to the default line. So obviously wireless system, that's probably the best thing for basses to have. It's a for wireless systems. It doesn't lose all that low end like lots of other wireless systems do. So yeah, then we move on, just the compressor. So everything stays the same volume. So as in, if I add a little bit of if I add a slap line or whatever, it'd be the same volume for the guys out of house. So yeah, so I keep that in there just in case. Generally I might chuck it on during 2 fast songs in case I randomly chuck in a little bit of slap, so then the sound guys doesn't pop out unless it's a line in the song that's required to pop out a little bit more. Then we have a vintage Microtubes, so just for worship, if I want to add a bit more of a grit sound, so if we're building up and then we got to a certain point where I can add a little bit more grit just to add that extra little bit of, so it's just a little subtle, but it's a little bit it just adds that layer that you won't notice it out of house, but it definitely builds that moment. So that's sort of my 3 pedals that consist of the default line. So if I move on to line A, so that's the shimmery sound. So it just consists of, so at the moment I'm just playing a root and 5th of a chord. So at the moment I'm playing a B flat. So if I just bring that in slightly, so that's just a bit of a delay. It's about 115 beats a minute, and then a template I bought off a guy, which I'll put a link in the description for, which is a nice shimmery sound, which is normally for guitar, which I really like the sound of with the bass. So I use that. So that's good. If you want any information about anything like that, just send me a message. I'll put my email in the description. Let me move on to the synth bass sound, which I don't use too often, but it's just there for fun really, or if I want to use it for maybe a youth group or something like that, just a bit of a fun sound. So it's always changing, it's never the same, but at the moment it sounds something like. The problem is with octaves and playing stuff, you gotta be careful with the low notes, because it sort of gets a little bit muddy. Like sometimes the octave gets a little bit out, so just be careful. So it's more the high notes, but with this octave it's awesome because you can change the range of it as well. So yes, that's the sound of them. And then to finish off my line after the is the Polytune. So that's just a normal Polytune tuner pedal. So yeah, so well, the order technically would go first 3 into line selector, and then from the line selector into line A, then the line selector into my line B, and then into the tuner at the end. So that, especially with the shimmer, sometimes when that's on, if you turn the tuner on too early, if I had it earlier, then it just make that shimmer sound over top of it, and we don't want that. So it's like a stops all sound from happening. So cool. If you got any questions, just send me a message. Thanks.